Hey everybody. So we are back to talk about cylinders. I'm on page 6 of your packet, and this is a pretty short, pretty quick section. We only have a couple of examples to do. So a cylinder is essentially a prism that has circular bases. So that's not the technical definition, but that's the easiest way to think about it. So if you remember from the first unit, I used my cake mix box a lot. So this was a rectangular prism. It had bases that were rectangles, and those were connected by these rectangular sides. So a cylinder, my baking powder, maybe you see a theme. A cylinder is like a prism. It has these congruent and parallel bases, but because those bases are circles now, we don't have rectangles on the side. We have this curved surface. Now, what's kind of interesting, and if you look at the picture on your screen, or if you look at the picture in your notes, this is kind of a drawn out visual of it. But if we were to unwrap the edge of, or the side of the cylinder, that actually creates a rectangle. So a cylinder, that curved surface of a cylinder that's between your bases, when you unwrap it, it actually creates a rectangle, which is kind of cool. The height of that rectangle is the same as the height of your cylinder, right? And that length of the rectangle is actually the circumference of your cylinder. It's the circumference of that, of those two circular bases. So that's going to be important when we start to talk about surface area and volume. Just like with prisms, remember that the height of a cylinder, or the height of a prism, is just the distance between the two bases. So the surface area of a cylinder. Surface area is the area of all of the pieces of the shape. So for a cylinder, we have three pieces. We have the top and bottom, those two circular bases. So the first part of the surface area formula is 2b, where b is the area of that circular base, so pi r squared. So there's one on the top and one on the bottom. That's why we multiplied by 2. And then we add to that the area of this rectangle. And the area of a rectangle is its length times its width, or its base times its height. And we just said that this length right here is actually the circumference of our circular base. So that's why in your formula you see the C. So C is the circumference of the circular base. It's actually the length of this rectangle. And then H is just the height of the cylinder. And remember that the circumference of a circle is 2 pi r. So these two formulas for circles kind of get used in the surface area formula. So if you look at this first example, find the surface area of this cylinder. So I'm just going to start by rewriting our formula. Surface area of a cylinder is 2 times the area of the base plus the area of that rectangle, which is the circumference of the circle times the height of the cylinder. And again, you do not have to memorize these formulas. You can always go back and look them up. So don't get overwhelmed by the formulas, just understand how to plug into them. So that's all we have left to do. So we're going to plug in. So I have 2 times the area of our circular bases, pi r squared. Our radius is 4. So pi r 4 squared plus our circumference. Circumference is 2 pi r. So 2 pi 4 times the height of our cylinder, which is 12. I'm going to simplify this a little bit before I go to my calculator. So over here, I would have 2 times 16 pi plus, this is going to be 8 pi times 12. And you can just type all of that into your calculator at one time. Just like when we were finding the area of a flat circle, for cylinders, and later on in our notes when we get to cones, whenever you have pi in your formula, you're going to have to round off your answer. So we're just going to round to the nearest tenth. So our surface area here would be 402.1. We don't have an actual unit written, so we're just going to use the general units squared for surface area. So that would be the surface area of our cylinder. All right, so volume of the cylinder. So you might notice that this is the same exact formula that we had for volume of the prism. The area of the base times the height between the bases. The only difference when we're talking about a cylinder is that for the base, we're going to use the area of a circle instead of using area of a square or area of a rectangle or area of a triangle. So if we want to find the volume of this cylinder, volume is the area of the base times the height. In this case, the area of our base, be careful, pi r squared, we were given the diameter here. So the radius of this circle would just be 8. So the area of our base here is going to be pi times 8 squared. And we're going to multiply that by the height of our cylinder, which is 21. So this is going to be 64 pi times 21, which is about 4,222.3 units cubed this time because we're talking about volume. Okay, so surface area and volume of a cylinder, very straightforward. I know the formulas look a little bit confusing because you have a lot of different variables, but just go through and make sure that you understand which each variable is standing for, and you're literally just plugging in radius and height into these two formulas. Just make sure that you're using the radius and not the diameter, depending on what you're given. So that's it. Hope that is as easy as, seems as easy as it is. So you have a little bit of practice now to do with cylinders, and then an online assessment to do for me this week. And then you'll be done. So hope that you guys are doing well. Looking forward to seeing you soon.